All right, we're good. We are live. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Congregation Kol Ami. First and foremost, a welcome to all those joining us in person. Welcome to those joining us online. This evening, as I mentioned before, we will be praying from this special Mishkan Halev prayer book, which is special for the season of Slichot, which begins tomorrow night. And we hope you'll join along. There should be an ebook version that you can follow along with on ccarnet.org. My name is Rabbi Ross Levy. I'm joined with our student rabbi, Alana Rabasha, and we are so excited to welcome everyone and bring in this Shabbos. So we will begin on page 6 with the special reading for the month of Elul. Elul, an island in the year. Before we slip too quickly into the season of the soul, let there be a Sabbath of Sabbaths for the heart. Before the music of creation's majesty, let there be a silent praise of existence. Before the feast of sanctified words, let there be a poetry of solitude. Before we enter the palaces of prayer, let us find within ourselves a place of calm. Before we revel in the wondrous and sublime, let there be an honest inward gaze. Before the rites and ceremonies of awe, let there be quieter days, an island of attentiveness. So as we find ourselves in this island of Elul, we'll sing together tonight and bring in the holiness of Shabbat. We'll begin with a bit of a nigun, a wordless melody, something that I brought a couple of weeks ago, so you might be familiar with it, but it's special. It was specially written for the month of Elul, so please sing along. I'll sing through it a few times. Join in, whether you're here in person or you're joining us at home. Let's try that together. One more time. Okay, that's actually one more time. Here's the second part. Let's try that together. Back to the first part.
It is now my pleasure to invite up Martin Perea and Murray to kindle our Shabbat lights, which can be found on page 10 and 11.
In the beginning, emptiness and chaos, a great darkness over the deep. The Spirit of God moved over the waters, explosion of light, the long chain of emerging life. Behold, It was very good. These candles evoke the very first light. Out of the darkness came reason, purpose, consciousness of beauty, the power to discern and do what is right. Let us hold the light in our hearts. Let us bring it with us into the darkest corners of creation. Where there is pain and fear, let us offer the light of love.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadik neir shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
Amen. It is now my honor to invite David Glickman up to hold our Kiddush cup in loving memory of his mom, Lori's first yard site.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zeicher litziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim b'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. At this point, we're going to invite Martin to join us at the Ark as we offer a blessing and a celebration of Martin's conversion, which he finalized earlier this morning up at the American Jewish University.
As we open the Ark, please rise. Got it. Martin, we've arrived in this moment in front of the Ark on this Shabbat that you've looked forward to for so long. It has been quite a journey since I met you in our Intro to Judaism class, but I know that that journey has actually gone for much longer than this past year. This morning, your supportive and loving partner, Murray, who's right here next to you in the Torah, presented you with this talit that you are now wrapped in. It is a shawl that in and of itself reminds us of our Jewish values, our relationship to the divine, and our connection to this global people of Israel that you are now formally a part of. As we stand here in front of the ark, in front of our community, with you holding the Torah, I want to offer you this blessing. Today, you took the name Shlomo ben Avraham V'Sara. Your name shares the same root as our word for wholeness and the same root as the word shalom. But you also chose this name because it is a family name connecting you back to the generations of crypto Jews in your family. May this moment and occasion of celebrating your affirmation to Judaism bring you wholeness, bring you return, bring you shalom, bring you peace. We're so, so blessed to have your presence, your curiosity, and your being here, both at Kol Ami and within the larger people of Israel. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Martin. Ooh. I got a few questions to ask you. We went through this earlier today, so it's nothing new. But is my mic on, Travis? Are we good? You'll be able to hear it. There we go. There we go. Do you choose to enter the eternal covenant between God and the people Israel and to become a Jew of your own free will?
Yes.
Do you commit yourself to the pursuit of Torah and Jewish knowledge?
Yes.
Do you promise to establish a Jewish home and to participate actively in the life of the synagogue and of the Jewish community?
Yes.
If you should be blessed with children, do you promise to raise them as Jews?
Yes.
Do you commit to building a meaningful relationship with the state of Israel and its people? Do you accept Judaism to the exclusion of all other religious faiths and practices?
Yes.
Do you pledge your loyalty to Judaism and to the Jewish people under all circumstances? And with that, I'll offer the most ancient blessing that we have. Comes from the Torah, the priestly benediction. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and watch over you. Maybe not right at this moment. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's presence enlighten you and be gracious to you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence be gracious to you, favor you, and may God grant you peace and wholeness. And we all say, Amen and Mazel Tov. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov. Yehelanu, 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 Ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael. All right, Alana's gonna grab the Torah scroll from you. And as we close the ark, I'll invite everyone to be seated for now. And it is my honor to present you with this official certificate, two official certificates, but which you signed earlier, which officially mark your transition and your conversion into the Jewish people. I know you know what this looks like, so everyone knows that we're official. But once again, Mazel Tov to you, Mazel Tov to your partner, Murray, and we are so, so lucky and blessed to have you as part of our community. All right, you can go take a seat. All right, so as we've welcomed a new member of our community, it is now time to welcome in Shabbat. We began that process when we lit the candles, when we said the blessing over the wine and Kiddush, but we'll continue on page
22.
22. Got a lot of things going on here. On page 22 with L'cha Dodi, and We will be doing, in actuality, verses 1, 2, and 9. But on this page, they are 1, 2, and 4. So please join along. And also, as a friendly reminder, on the final verse, we'll invite everyone to rise and face the entrance as a way of symbolically welcoming in the presence of Shabbat. Lecha dodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabla. Lecha dodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabla. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad Hishmianu el ha'meyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad V'shem u'tiferet v'letihila Lecha dodi likrat kalai alom Ateret bala Gam besimcha ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת קלה אללי 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 פני שבת Kabela, lecha dodi likrat kalai, elalai, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
While we are still standing, let's take a moment to greet one another and wish somebody a Shabbat Shalom. If you are joining us online, feel free to send a text or throw a Shabbat Shalom into the chat online.
Shabbat Shalom, Mom and Dad. Shabbat Shalom, Ronnie, if you're watching. I don't know if you are. All right, we will continue with the beginning of the service proper. This was all just a warm up a little bit. We'll lie, 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 lie. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamevo Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed.
If you are so inclined, please join me in the reading at the bottom of page 29. Holy is twilight, the realm of in-between. And so our sages taught, pray in the moments when light and darkness touch. We are all twilight people, beyond categories and labels. May the sacred in-between of the seas soften our judgments, widen our vision. Let it illumine our way to the God who transcends all boundaries and definitions.
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה Asher Anochi Mitzavecha Hayom Al Levavecha Vishinantam Levanecha V'dibarta Bam V'shivtecha B'veita V'hayu Letotafot Bein Einecha V'hayu Letotafot Bein Einecha Uchtabtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha kodesh. Nora teilot osei felei, Nora Adonai imloch leolam ba'ed. With us. Part of the aspects of freedom is being able to rest and having the space and the time and the ability to rest. And so we continue with Hashkivenu, page 42, with our prayer, with our blessing, asking God for some rest. After this week, I know I could use some rest, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. With all that's going on in the world, sometimes the most liberating thing we can do is rest and restore ourselves and give ourselves the energy to continue to fight another day. Page 42, Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim Hashkivenu. Part of the beauty of coming together in community, part of the beauty of living and doing Jewishly is that we are obligated to rest. It is commanded of us to take one day out of the week and to use it to restore ourselves. And so while we may need rest, we also, and many times we need joy just as much. And the joy of rest, the joy of being together and bringing in the sacredness and the holiness of Shabbat together. And with that, we'll continue on page 46 with Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית לעם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני, את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. Sing it out, יאמרו בני ישראל את השבת, בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
For those that don't know, I am a rabbi's kid. I spent every Friday night growing up in the third row of our sanctuary, and my sister, who always sat just to my right, her head would be in whatever book of the week it was, probably a Harry Potter. And that is how she would spend services, diving into the world of Harry Potter. I, on the other hand, would read Mishkan Halev that we're reading out of today. There's Mishkan Haseder, Mishkan Ga'ava. All of these prayer books are meant for you to read the wrong thing or what might be perceived as the wrong thing. And so I want to begin our Amidah time by reading part of what is the meditative Amidah for Elul. And as I read this and as we begin our silent Amidah, I encourage you to read the footnote, the verses of Torah that are in the italics, read the blue pages that have commentary and wise words from whole generations and generations of rabbis and Jewish thought leaders. I'm on the top of page 49.
words for Achad Sha'alti, which comes from Psalm 27, a special psalm that is traditionally recited every day during the month of Elul, can be found on your service insert. Let's do some lai so everyone can get the words. Achad Sha'alti meit Adonai ota vakish. Achad Sha'alti meit Adonai ota vakish. Shivti beveit Adonai kol yamei chayai. לחזות בנועם, בנועם אדונם אדוני, לבקר בהיכלו. לחזות בנועם, בנועם אדוני, לבקר בהיכלו. Let's do that one more time. אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אותה בקש. אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אותה בקש. שבתי בבית אדוני, כל ימי חיי. לחזות בנועם, בנועם אדוני, לבקר בהיכלו. לחזות בנועם, בנועם אדוני, לבקר בהיכלו. אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אותה בקש. Please be seated.
We take these next few moments to think of those in our lives, in our world, who are in need of healing. We ask the Holy One of Blessing for refuat hanefesh, the healing of spirit, refuat haguf, healing of body, refuah shlema, a complete and total healing for those who are struggling, those who are suffering, their caregivers, and especially those who are alone this Shabbat, perhaps with nobody thinking of them and their pain. This Shabbat, Congregation Kol Ami is thinking of Jay Albala, Willie Allen, John Altschul, Jeffrey Basham, Esther Baum, Sophie Bellsberg, Richard Bernard, Don Bernstein, Tim Bestenheider, Dabby Blatt, Luis Cantrell, Wayne Cantrell, Pat Callender, Nada Chirina, Jeannie Cole, Olga Drucker, Lisa Edwards, Phyllis Ehrlich, Francine Epstein, Greg Factor, Tino Felipe, Paul Morgan Fredericks, Joan Friedman, Marv Glickman, Dr. Stuart Greenfield, Yardena Gutentag, Yossi Gutentag, Malcolm Harris, Max Herrera, Rami Hitchcock, Stephen Neubauer, Andrea Puente, Tammy Rabowski, Lisa Rattray, Ben Reback, Howard Romanoff, Judy Rosenberg, Debbie Rush, Ashley Rush, Adam Rush, Lowell Selvin, Ashley Rush, Adam Rush, Lowell Selvin, Michael Simmenthal, Janine Snyder, Henry Sommerfeld, Kathy Weiss, Vibasha. And if you are thinking of someone, I invite you to say their name aloud wherever you are, or to write it in the chat on Facebook or on YouTube to bring their name into our sacred community.
Our prayer for healing can be found on page 77 at the bottom of the page. Mi shebeirach avoteinu mekor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imoteinu mekor habracha la'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Here we go. Lots of papers. Lots of papers. During my first week here at Kol Ami, I had the privilege to join in on the final session of Deeper Dive, a class, a Judaism class for a special group of students who wanted to pursue conversion. Many of these students, like Martin tonight, we've already had the privilege to welcome into the Jewish community during Friday night services in recent weeks. When reflecting on their time learning together, many of the students mentioned how much they enjoyed an activity known as God shopping. God shopping is an opportunity to sift through the many God concepts that we find in Jewish tradition, and for each individual to grapple with the theological framework that resonates with them the most. Whether it is the God of relationships described by Martin Buber as the eternal thou, the mystical God of Kabbalah, the creative, ambiguous, and non-binary God of Judith Plaskow, or the ever-evolving God of Bradley Shavit Artson. And so many more. We have an immense variety of theological expression in Jewish tradition, even as they all share in the affirmation of the one God of creation. As well, for our religious forebears in previous centuries, incorporate our cultural context into our expressions of and our struggles with ideas of God. Like our ancestors, we do not exist in a Jewish cultural vacuum, but bring the cultural norms and beliefs and concepts that surround us to bear on our religious inheritance, our tradition, whether it is science or philosophy or modern values and beliefs. We integrate these ideas with what we see across centuries of Jewish texts. In this way, Jewish thought is always evolving and growing, giving birth to new interpretations of ancient metaphors. This variety in Jewish thought and in theology leads to a variety in interpretation, particularly when it comes to the Hebrew Bible. This is why traditionally Jews do not read scripture on its own, but always surrounded and informed by commentaries we have accrued over the centuries. So depending upon a person's conception of God, the text brings with it a different meaning. And a prime example of this comes in this week's parashah, Ki Tavo. where we read, Yakimcha Adonai lo la'am kadosh, kasher nishba lach, ki tishmor et mitzvot Adonai Elohecha, ve'alachta bidrachav. The Eternal will establish you as God's holy people, as God swore to you. If, big if here, if you keep the commandments of the Eternal, your God, and walk in God's ways. Now, the key phrase is that last one, to walk in God's ways. What does that mean, to walk in God's ways? Lalechet bidrachav in Hebrew. Of course, depending on your notion of God, this can mean a variety of different ways of behaving. The sages and rabbis of the Talmud ask this very question in Tractate Sota, saying, is it possible to walk in God's ways? And the answer they give us builds from the way God acts in the Torah, first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. And they encourage us to imitate God in our own lives. Just as God clothes the naked, so too should we help those in need of clothing and other basic necessities. Just as God comforts mourners, so too should we come together as a community to those grieving a loss. Just as God visits the sick, so too should we visit those suffering from ailments. And so on and so forth. Each of these ways of God is tied with a particular story in the Torah. But if we're being honest, the sages intentionally focus on certain moments over others. For example, we do not wish to imitate the God that destroys the world out of anger and frustration in the story of Noah, or the God who decimates Sodom and Gomorrah, or the God who commands Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. The Talmudic sages were careful not to encourage us to imitate a wrathful, angry, violent God, but instead emphasized a comforting, nurturing, caring God. I think all of us can pretty easily understand why. Now, despite the sages' call, we might not resonate with a call to imitate God, whatever that might mean to us. Many of us struggle with the idea of God, particularly one that supposedly has direct involvement in the world. Perhaps even all the more so if we are one of those who more easily connect with a distant, abstract God, even though I myself, and I'm sure many of us, have sought to distance ourselves from a difficult and painful world over the past year and a half. But one of the many blessings of the thematic trajectory, the shifts that happen over the course of the Jewish calendar, is that with each season, we envision and relate to the divine in different ways. On Passover, we have God as a liberator. On Shavuot, we have God as a teacher and a lawgiver. And on Rosh Hashanah, we have God as a judge and arbiter of justice, just to name a few. And this weekend, as we observe Slichot and begin final preparations for the High Holy Days, we encounter yet another vision of the divine known as Eloha Aslichot, the God of forgiveness. Or as we'll often hear, both during Slichot and during the High Holy Days, El Rahum V'chanu, the compassionate and gracious God, abounding in kindness and love. Despite what we do or do not believe about God, and whether or not we see the imitation of God as a valuable guide for how we live our lives, my hope for these days leading into the most sacred time of the year is that we can search within ourselves and find that urge, that spark towards forgiveness and compassion. This, in a lot of ways, constitutes our Tselem Elohim, our image of God that all of us carry with us, that we are granted when we were brought into this world. This image being that of a forgiving and a loving, compassionate God. This seasonal imitation of God has the potential to bring consolation, repair, and even healing into our lives. I hope that we can all find our own paths to forgive our friends and our loved ones for wrongdoings, to forgive those we don't know for the ways in which they've negatively impacted our lives, and to forgive ourselves for those times when we were not at our best. It does not mean acceptance or complacency. There is so much work to do when it comes to repairing our world and ourselves. But in forgiving, we significantly diminish the power that anger and resentment has within our souls. Just as we see in the many conceptions of God, of the divine and Jewish tradition, we as human beings have the power to inflict immense harm, immense trauma on others and on ourselves. But we are.
Last time I did this, everybody at home got to see my belly button. So I just want to make sure.
You could stand back and use the hand mic, actually. All right. So people can see you, and yeah, that's good.
This is the problem because I am 5'1".
Is it okay?
I think we
right.
should be good.
We're good? All right, very good. I didn't want to have everybody go through that drama again, so you're welcome. Shabbat Shalom, my name is Todd Cohen. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of the congregation and the treasurer of the congregation. And on this evening of Shabbat, we'd like to offer a mazel tov to Martin for choosing Judaism, and we welcome you into the family this evening. And of course, congratulations to Rory as well.
Todd, can you thank you? Thank you.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Every summer, Kol Ami brings food to fill our summer pantry barrels. When you come to synagogue, you'll see them outside. Please remember to bring canned food, toiletries, and packaged foods that don't need necessarily refrigeration. The pantries are especially challenged now, and we can all help with our summer food drive. Please bring groceries for Soba tomorrow night at Salichot. For all of our members, again, this is important because we're getting to the high holidays. Your membership renewal forms are now past due if you've not filled them out and sent them in. So remember, this year, you're not automatically renewed for the high holidays if your first quarter dues aren't paid. So if you need to make arrangements or having issues or challenges, please call Marka or email her, and we will definitely work with all of you. If you're not a member, we would love to have you. Now's the time to join. I see some new faces in the crowd, so welcome to everybody. The high holidays are only 1 week away, or music in honor of someone in your memory or friends, please do so. And also please be sure to get your Yisker scroll of memory listings turned in. So lots of paperwork to do. Also, Rabbi Levy is invited as we prepare spiritually for the high holidays. And then tomorrow night is Salichot at 6:30, the true beginning of the high holidays. And we will have a bring your own picnic outdoors to welcome our rabbi, and a festive Havdalah outside and learning with our rabbis. Culminating in the beautiful and meaningful Salichot service, let's kick off the high holidays together. So tomorrow night, 6:30 outside. And then Sunday, September 12th, please join our rabbis and the community at the beach for the annual Tashlik ceremony. We'll meet at Tower 10 at Will Rogers State Beach. And that's where Temescal Canyon meets Pacific Coast Highway. We look forward to seeing you. I'm going to go off script for just 1 second. Right now, obviously, the temple is really busy getting ready for the holidays. There's a lot of work being done. The staff would love to have some free time next week or the next couple of weeks. Just please call Marka. We'd love to have you just help for a couple hours if it's stuffing envelopes or boxes or things in the back office. It would just be really helpful. So if anybody has some free time the next couple of weeks, just give Marka a call. She would appreciate it. And as always, we want everyone to keep aware of what's going on at the community and with the Kol Ami synagogue by visiting our website, which is kol-ami.org. You can register for all of our online programs. And while you're there, please consider a donation to support the community. We rely on everyone's support for all the offerings that we provide you, often at no cost. So thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night and during the holidays.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you so much, Todd, and Shabbat Shalom. Our service continue with our concluding prayers, beginning with Aleinu L'Shabeach, which can be found on page 78. One of the great things about these prayer books, you don't have to flip all the way to the back. Amazing. I'll ask that everyone please rise as the ark is opened. All the way to the back. Amazing. I'll ask that everyone please rise as the ark is opened. Aleinu L'Shabeach. Aleinu L'Shabeach La'adon HaKol, Lateit Gedula Leotzeh Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kigoye Haratzot, Velo Samanu K'mishpechot Ha'adama, Shelo Sam Chelkeinu Kahem, Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Va'anachnu Kolim ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך יום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Whom death has taken from us in recent days, and those who died at this season in years past, our hearts open as well to the wider circles of loss in our community, and wherever grief touches the human family, Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing now and always. This Shabbat, Congregation Kol Ami is thinking about Tonya Gipsman, mother of Jacob Gipsman, Harvey Weiner, founding executive committee member, Sam A. Granadier, grandfather of Marianne Lowenthal, Esther Bergstein, grandmother of Robert Bergstein, Katz Cash, mother of Stuart Catch, Edna Weiner, mother of Robert Weiner, Emily Marquez, friend of Kim Bergman, Estelle Kumbauth, aunt of Henry Sommerfeld, Eugene Rogalski, husband of Josephine Boutel and uncle of Jeff Kaufman, Frank Waxner, uncle of Robin Waxner, Joan Selvin, mother of Brad Selvin, Lowell Selvin, and Hillary Selvin, Judy Bernstein, grandmother of David Bernstein, Lawrence Beckerman, brother of David Beckerman and friend of Roberta Bennett, Lori Glickman, mother of David Glickman, Marty Harris, uncle of David Levy, May Helen Dean's friend, mother of Jennifer Dean's friend, Phyllis Joy Friedel, aunt of Mark Freeman, Richard Newman, father of Carol Newman, Richard Slutsky, father of Leonard Slutsky, Rita Weiss, cousin of Daniel Blatt, Robert Letsky, great uncle of Cantor Mark Saltzman, Ronald Gold, friend of Murray Blank, Rose J., grandmother of Adam Schulman. And this year, Congregation Kol Ami is remembering Patty Weinbar, Adair Faust, Anshel Samuels, Cecile Sommerfeld, Marcia Sherman, Desiderio Pacheco, Ruth Kendall, Margot Gohari, Jeffrey Blank, Roberto Martinez, Robert Weems, Adele Habibi, Sarah Klein, Francis Schiff, Lynn Ehrlich McCulley, Mariel Steicher, Marie Cecilia Ruvo, Eva Weinberger, Sandra Smith, Jack Ader, Esther Richmond, Mary Wilson, Josh Markowitz, Vincent Gabriel, Steve Boardman, Fred Michaels, Claude Casalino, Jeb Stewart Robinson, Barbara Rubin, Jill Dowler, Allison Schurz, Rochelle Kaminsky, Alan Eckaby, Gary Rosenfeld, Stephen May, Herbert Lank, Jack Salzberg, wherever you are. And if it is your custom to rise, I invite you to do so. The mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 86. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, V'chayechon v'yomechon u'chaye techol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushvachata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen.
Amen. Our concluding song will be Shiviti, coming from Psalm 16. You can find the words and a little bit of a translation and explanation in your insert. Shiviti havaya leneti tamid. Shiviti havaya leneti tamid. Havaya, 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 hava, 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 havaya, 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 hava, hava. Shiviti havaya lenegdi tamid. Shiviti havaya lenegdi tamid. Havaya, 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 hava, 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 havaya, 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 hava, hava, hava. Baruch atah b'voecha, you were blessed by whatever means brought you into this space and into this community tonight. Baruch atah b'tzeitecha, may you be blessed as you enter into the sacred space of Shabbat and into the season of forgiveness and slichot. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.